Hey everybody, it's Jake, and I'm back to talk more about the differences between Terraform and other infrastructure as code tools to get a little bit more specific. So, if you need a general overview, watch one of my other videos, but this is going to be very specific. So, um, this is specifically going to be comparing um, just like Ansible Chef and Puppet with with um, with Terraform, but also maybe a couple other little things. But so the one of the differences with config management is that is the provisioning. So I talked about this a little bit, but by and large, config management tools aren't typically used for the express purpose of provisioning resources. There's an exception to that because Ansible can definitely provision resources, um, but that's one difference that you'll see in the community. Another one is that config management looks at things from a mutable perspective. So if you have Chef install a new version of something, it'll go run that update everywhere, right? Um, but over time, as you get more and more updates, each one has a unique history of changes. So maybe I'll use Ansible for example. You have two threads, and it's just updating two, um, at a time, or you have 10, and it's doing 10 at a time, or whatever it's doing. You're going to have different update times, different update. I mean, if it's near midnight, maybe using update dates. Whereas infrastructure as code, everything will be deployed at the same time with the same template and the same version and the same everything. Um, so immutable infrastructure, you just tear it down and rebuild it. Whereas mutable infrastructure, you're just going to be patching it, over patching it, over patching it, over patching it. So when I'm talking about version history, you could go, look at OpenSSL. If you're using OpenSSL and you're on the latest version and you're using Terraform, there's not going to be any update history. There's just going to be the latest version installed. Whereas on Ansible or unless you're provisioning with Ansible or Chef or something, you're going to have the latest version of OpenSSL. But if you go look at the version history, there's going to be a log of updates and changes. So again, I don't know that that's a huge deal, but it's definitely something worth considering because it just depends on what you're trying to achieve. So then there's the language. So Chef Ansible, that kind of stuff uses procedural language, whereas Terraform uses a declarative language. So in Terraform, you declare what you want and it builds that. It'll also destroy things that you declare or things that exist that you didn't declare. So if I say, hey, I need 10 servers and there's 12 servers, two of those servers are going to go away because you don't want 12, you want 10. Whereas Ansible, if you have 12 and you tell it to build 10, it's going to build 10 more. So that might not be what you intended to happen, but that could definitely happen. So they're very similar, but when you execute them, I think you'll see a lot of different results. So that's definitely something worth considering. The next one is master versus masterless. So all the config management tools require you to run a master server, whereas Terraform does not. You don't need a Terraform server. You can just put all your Terraform files, all the config into Git, and then me and any other developer on my team can just do a pull, have the latest config files, and I can go ahead and update the landscape straight from my laptop. Anybody can that has access. So it's completely masterless. And there's also the conversation about agent versus agentless. So like Chef, Puppet, SaltStack, you have to have an agent, whereas Ansible, you don't have to have an agent. Um, the thing with agent software, it's kind of nice. And again, very big gray area here, but it's a push pull method as far as state goes. So like Chef will push, hey, this is my state. This is what I have installed for Chef and Puppet. Whereas Ansible will pull it. It'll go out and query and be like, hey, are you running this? Yes or no. So in that way, it's a little bit easier to manage when you don't have to pull it. So I do like that about Chef and Puppet. However, Ansible's done a lot of work around dynamic inventory and a lot of other things that have kind of made that really not a big deal. So yeah, there's a few drawbacks though. The agent runs in the background, right? So you have to go through bootstrapping, and there's maintenance, and you have security to worry about, and all that other stuff. So sometimes just going agentless makes that easier to sell to somebody or easier to secure. There's a lot of moving parts to all of it. So, but Ansible, CloudFormation, Terraform, you don't have to install any agents or have any of that other stuff. So, and if you have AWS or GCP or whatever, they take care of installing like all the stuff for you. So if you use Terraform to go install something, you're really using a service account or a user in AWS or whatever to do that instead of having an agent do it. And it's easy to manage, track, audit, log, all that stuff. Um, so the other thing is large community versus small community. So this is, I think, a bigger conversation I hear a lot, and that's that you might want to look at a certain tool because there's a large community, so there's a lot of support, there's a lot of documentation, maybe there's a lot of problems that people have posted on like Stack Overflow, or their documentation is robust. They've been around for a while, and it's easy to get support. Whereas in a small community, you may not have those same resources. In addition, there might be other integrations, extensions, plugins, things like that that are available with larger community products that don't exist with small community. So if that matters to you, then great. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't really matter. So um, the one of the last things is mature versus cutting edge. This is kind of in the same wheelhouse. Puppet is definitely the oldest one. Puppet and Chef. CloudFormation's been out for a long time. There's a lot of stuff, documentation on there. It's been like 10 years. Ansible, kind of 9, 10 years. So they all kind of came out around that 2009 to 2012 timeframe, except for Puppet came out in 2005, and then Terraform didn't come out until 2014. So it's the newest of all of them. So some people might be like, well, that's not enough time. I don't feel like it's matured. I mean, Terraform's everywhere, so I wouldn't really worry about that. So I don't think that's a huge deal. But that's just me. So the last thing is using multiple tools together. So we kind of compare like, well, there's this one that does this and this one does this, but the reality is you'll probably need multiple. I've even seen Terraform files that build CloudFormation templates. So, I mean, that's a choice you can make, I guess. I don't really know why, but what might make more sense is using like Terraform and Ansible. So maybe you deploy everything with Terraform, you're provisioning everything with Terraform, but you're going to configure everything with Ansible. I think that might make sense. Or use CloudFormation and Ansible, or CloudFormation and Puppet, or Terraform and Chef, like whatever you want to do. That might make more sense. So if you're provisioning plus server templating, again, you could use like Terraform and Packer. And if you're templating, you're probably not doing config management. But I've also seen all three, where you have templating and then provisioning and then configuration. So you'd have like Packer and Terraform and Ansible, or Vagrant and Terraform and Chef, or whatever. So in reality, you'll probably see these things bundled together in some sort of streamlined process of how things are done. But again, it depends. If you're the kind of person that doesn't want any changes at all done, you don't want to have all that stuff, then you probably aren't going to be. You want an immutable environment. You're probably not going to be using a lot of config management tools. But if you're also one of those people that's like, well, we can't just adopt Terraform because of the destructive nature of how it manages state, then a valid argument, and maybe that's not the tool for you, and you can use something. If you're in AWS, you can use CloudFormation instead, because it's a lot safer, and there's things you can do to prevent that from happening. So you can do it in Terraform too, but So all that say, it's up to you, but at least at this point, I did a little bit deeper of a dive on it, and I hope that helps. So if you have questions, let me know, and see you in the next one. Actually, maybe we'll start building some stuff soon.